I'm gonna try to make this real short and sweet. My name is Serina. I want to talk a little bit about the astrology of March 2023 because there's a lot of big shifts happening, and this will most likely coincide with some big changes in people's lives. I'm gonna get right into it. On the screen here that we have the chart for March 1st, 2023. The sun will be at about 10 degrees Pisces. And what's going to happen is that 3 different planets are going to change signs in March. 3 different planets that have been in the sign that they are in for a very long time. So Saturn is going to move from Aquarius to Pisces on March 7th. It's been in Aquarius for about 3 years, and it'll stay in Pisces for about 2.5 years after that. Pluto is going to move from Capricorn to Aquarius. Pluto's been in Capricorn for 15 years, about, and it'll be in Aquarius for almost 20 years. And that happens on March 23rd. And then on March 25th, Mars moves into Cancer. Mars has been in Gemini for about the last 6 months, which is a really long time for Mars to be in a sign. It usually only spends about 2 months in a sign, but because of retrograde motion, every couple of years it'll spend some extended amount of time in a sign. So let's move the chart ahead here to move it ahead by a few days. Here we can see Saturn over here at 29 degrees of Aquarius. And as of March 7th, it moves into Pisces. And we're going to have a little Pisces party here with Saturn, Mercury, the Sun, and Neptune there. So Neptune's been the only big player in Pisces for about 11 years now, 12 years. And now we're going to have Saturn there for a couple of years too. So every time Pisces season comes around, it gets this extra Saturnian flavor. So this will mean different things for different people. Just like its trek through Aquarius meant different things for different people. My daughter is an Aquarius rising, and on March 6th, so the day before it leaves Aquarius, she gets her braces off after having them on for almost 3 years, almost the entire time to the day that Saturn was in Aquarius, her first house, which deals with how we look. And Saturn is all about the teeth and boundaries and restriction, which braces are. The whole time Saturn's in her first house, she's got braces on. The day before Saturn changes signs, she gets them off. And then on March 7th, she takes her ACTs, which is also kind of a big deal. So already big changes happening in March, especially for my Aquarius person. So for Pisces people, when Saturn moves into Pisces, this might be more of a big deal. This is a very textbook example of something that might happen if you're a Pisces or Pisces rising, is you might get braces. Something to do with your teeth might happen, or bones. That's the Saturn thing. Anything boundary related, or just growing up, growing pains, maturity, becoming more of an authority figure, dealing with authority figures. While Saturn was in Aquarius, daughter's first house, she also welcomed in a new baby brother. Her studies at school got pretty rigorous, and she got a job. It's all very Saturnian responsibility stuff. Okay, so also I'm going to spend a couple minutes reading from Renn Butler's book, The Archetypal Universe, which is an amazing resource that any astrologer or astrology nerd should have. So I'm going to read, he goes through the planetary pairs. So you can apply what he says to if you have those planets or planetary archetypes together in your own chart, in synastry, or for a transit. You just kind of apply his keywords and phrases to however it might apply to that kind of situation. So he doesn't have like anything that talks about Saturn and Pisces, but he does have something that talks about Saturn and Jupiter together, and he has something that talks about Saturn and Neptune together. And since Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces and Neptune in modern, we can look to what he says about Saturn and Jupiter or Saturn and Neptune for clues as to what Saturn structured Pisces will be about. There's a lot that we could say about it, and I'm going to keep this brief, so I'm not talking about much. Besides what he's going to say, though, I will say the astrology community is very excited about Saturn and Pisces, if only for the kind of arts and music that come out of Saturn and Pisces periods. If we think back to about 29 years ago, the last time that Saturn would have been in Pisces was in the early 90s and mid 90s. We had some of the best music since the last time it was in Pisces in the 60s, came out in the 90s. Oasis, anybody? Early 90s, a lot of great music. I mean, for a lot of people, that was the grunge stuff, but the Britpop stuff like Oasis and like, not Britpop, but the alt rock stuff like Third Eye Blind and Better Than Ezra and Alanis Morissette, all that, early 90s. Anyways, going on, Saturn and Pisces journey here. Look for Saturn and Jupiter. Okay, so this is some Saturn and Jupiter themes. They're two really big players, so they're really big topics and ideas. Frugality and patience. And some other stuff talk about how we're astrologically in a period of, kind of tightening the purse strings and needing to be frugal, and that makes sense here. Realistic aspirations. Aspirations are the Piscean Jupiter stuff, and the realism is Saturn. Optimism tempered by caution. Urges to take in one's sails and make adjustments. Instincts to prune or curb one's excesses. Nothing too much and less is more. Virtues of maturity and balance, integrity and perspective, a value on quality over quantity. Voluntary simplicity, minimum consumption, maximum satisfaction. Incremental growth. And understanding that the most valuable things are those earned over time. Long-term karmic rewards. An ability to learn through experience, painful but necessary growth. The positive sides of challenge and limitation. There's no coming to consciousness without pain. That's a Jung quote. He was a Jupiter trine Saturn native. Sweet are the uses of adversity. Shakespeare said that. He was a Jupiter conjunct Saturn person. For everything you have missed, you have gained something else, and for everything you gain, you lose something. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Jupiter conjunct Saturn. Worldly wisdom. Mitigating circumstances in times of trouble. In times of trouble with Saturn, mitigating the circumstances would be Jupiter or Pisces. There's always a mitigating circumstance. And awareness of the need to surrender all worldly achievements at the end of one's life. Civic duty, public service, code of ethics, good laws, and awareness of both one's rights and responsibilities. The ideals of truth and justice, impartiality and tolerance, the overcoming of difference and prejudice, the aim of political correctness to foster growth and acceptance, inherent dignity, the ring of truth, the social fabric, the pillars of society, societal stability. Okay. Saturn, Neptune next. Humble and grounded spirituality, quiet centeredness and integrity, a disciplined spiritual practice. Forward to that. qualities of forgiveness, wisdom, and maturity, mature detachment, forbearance and non-resistance to emerging fear or pain, an ability to both appreciate and analyze the world, deliberate modesty and deflation, practical and focused compassion, concrete service to those less fortunate, the urge to put one's ideals into practice, the impulse to manifest one's imagination, the impulse to manifest one's imagination, tranquil solitude, sacred silence, hard-earned peace, the narrow path, the eye of the needle, the divine still point, spiritual mentors and teachers. Feelings of divine discontent and longing which lead to a committed spiritual path, yearnings for the lost cosmic unity, an anguished yet flowing type of emotional pain which dissolves false ego structures, and an appreciation of any morsel of connection with higher power. Saturn doesn't ask us to give up our dreams, only to make them real. Stephen Forrest said that. Okay, moving on. We're trying to keep this short and sweet. Okay, so on March 23rd, Pluto leaves Aquarius, Capricorn for Aquarius. Now it'll dip back in because of retrograde motion at some point before it settles back into Aquarius for good in 2024. And this is really too huge of a concept. This is a 20-year transit that I'm not even going to get into it at all here. There's going to be a lot of stuff we're hearing coming out about Pluto and Aquarius. So there's going to be a lot of similarities to the Pluto and Capricorn because they're both Saturnian, but also different. Okay. I did hear Marie Antoinette had her head cut off during the last Pluto and Aquarius transit. So there's that. Okay, so then couple days later, Mars moves into Cancer, and it will be trining that Saturn that just happened when it does that. So the whole Mars and Cancer trek, which is going to last for a couple of months, is going to be very flavored by this trine to Saturn, which I like. So for Mars and Cancer, which also since the Sun and Mercury and Jupiter and Aries, when Mars moves into Cancer, and Mars is the ruler of Aries, so all those planets kind of answer to Mars. This move is extra significant. It will change the whole Aries vibe when this happens on March 25th. So I'm going to read Mars Moon stuff from the archetypal universe as Cancer, the moon ruled sign. Okay, so there's going to be a healthy flow of emotional energy and vigor. So the flow and vigor is Mars, and the emotionality is Cancer. Impulses to bond and connect. Impulse is Mars. The bonding and connecting is sign of Cancer. Vigorous and passionate mothers, protective mothers. So there are always vigorous and passionate mothers and protective mothers, but we might see some in the news where the idea of that might become important to you, or you might find yourself, you have to be the protective mother. Active work for one's community and home. Emotional impact and catharsis of strong feelings. Mars is kind of an intensity and a sign of emotion. To me, and this isn't out of the book, but Cancer is very related to money. So we're going to see action surrounding money and resources. There also might be violence against women and violence against mothers, which again, there's that all the time, but something about that might be brought up to the surface to be dealt with. In media and like movies and TV, we might see storylines regarding which involve emotional shocks, civil wars, because Cancer is also a sign of the home, and this includes the home country. And no, it seems like we've all been in a little mini civil war here for a long time, but it would have been about 2 years ago. So in spring to summer of 2021 that Mars was in Cancer last, just for a month or two. And that was really been an ongoing thing because the United States is a Cancer sun. So Mars going over through Cancer is this extra energy around fighting your country. The whole Civil War thing. There might be also because it might indicate family conflicts or violence, because Cancer is a sign of the family, and Mars can be conflict or violence. It also can be just action. There might be some action and be taking in the family, extended family. Some archetypes in spirituality, which is a category he has in the book that I love, that it might be set against, is the tales of sibling rivalry, like Set and Osiris or Cain and Abel. And also just these themes of the deep opening and cleansing effect of emotional catharsis, if it's available. Love me some catharsis. He also goes into, he did a lot of work with dreams for this book, dreams and altered states of consciousness. So he pulled research from all different people on any kind of dream data they had. And so we looked at what transits were going on and what transits they had at that time. So he talks about what kind of dream images and things might come up during these times. So for Mars moon times, these archetypes intensify the emotions in people's dreams and scenarios of uncontrollable sobbing or even screaming, sometimes audible to others near the dreamer. These are a sign that healing emotional release is now possible. So you might just notice these themes in your dreams too, and there might be this possibility of emotional release. That might be a sign of that. Some themes in deep self-exploration. The Moon-Mars dynamic tends to lend itself to feeling less censoring of your emerging process, and this helps to increase the velocity of your emotional catharsis. So I've been doing EMDR since about November, when I had those eclipses on my Scorpio ascendant descendant axis. I started EMDR, which I've been wanting to do for years and years and years. It's a trauma processing and healing modality that works to help literally reconnect parts of your brain that trauma has kind of disconnected, and make some new pathways. And it's really simple. It does it through like bilateral stimulation of left, right, left, right. The lady that came up with it, which is now the most studied trauma healing modality in existence, but the lady that came up with it, she had the idea while she's taking a walk, because you know how going on a walk, it can help you process. Well, it's the left, right stimulation, left, right, left, right. It's engaging both the left, right sides of your brain. So I'm doing EMDR right now. It's hard work. So I loved seeing this, what he had to say about the Moon Mars stuff for when Mars moves into Cancer, that this, the feeling of less censoring of your emerging process. Because part of how EMDR works is that I have to get emotional during my sessions. I have to dig up the shit. And my intellectual mind wants to block some things and be like, this is silly, and to censor the emotional stuff that's coming up. So I hope that this lends to easing that process a little bit. It can especially, Moon Mars stuff can especially help to work through stuff, emotional stuff, and issues around conflict, anger, and aggression in their early lives, which is like exactly what I'm doing. So I hope that is fruitful. So Mars is going to spend about 2 months there, and that's the general idea for what's going to be going on. But again, there's the Saturn in the mix, because it's going to be trine Saturn as soon as it moves in. So he also goes into like, what if, so you have those two planetary pairs, Mars and the Moon, but what if you add a third one? What if there's a third player? So right now we can say Saturn's a third player, and Saturn can lend a little bit of pause before acting out one's feelings, some incremental catharsis of repressed emotional energy, emotional grounding through manual work. So that incremental catharsis of repressed emotional energy, that's not going to be like a fast thing, like Mars likes kind of fast, and the Moon too, but Saturn's going to kind of temper that, like it's going to be still kind of a slow process and tempered. Emotional grounding through manual work. I think emotional work can be pretty manual sometimes, feel like it is exhausting. but Saturn is that real like working with solid things. So the emotional catharsis working through solid things, which a lot of people will tell you if you get down and do some physical work, which I think around this time, March 25th, and through March through April, a lot of people, it's going to be gardening time to get down in the dirt and really work your body. And it can be really emotionally filling to do that and hanging out with the plants in the dirt. Okay, moving through real quick, we're almost done here. I'm going to move Mars through its time in Cancer, and we could see what other aspects and things it's going to do for fun. So we see that it stays that in that trine to Saturn for a while. We're already into April 4th, and it's still pretty tight in its trine to Saturn. And then there's going to be a tightening sextile to Mercury, which is nice. And then on April 7th, we have this beautiful kite. Oh, it's almost a double sextile depending on the time, like a grand sextile. So this particular time of day, because the MC is involved, we've got these extra sextiles up here. But even see if we move it an hour. So there's this kite formation between the moon and the nodal axis and Mars and Mercury and Saturn around April 6th, 7th. I won't go into all the different things that could mean, but I would say it's going to be significant and fun in some way. Okay, moving on. So it's tightening up its sextile to Uranus throughout April, and the sun is still in Aries and Jupiter there being colored by Mars in Cancer, making it more significant. And then as of April 20th, sun moves out of Aries into Taurus. So Mars' themes are going to be less prominent, but all that Taurus stuff is sextile Mars now. So that lends a little bit of positive, like social connection in regards to those themes, which Mars and Cancer likes. And on the 29th of April, Mars completes its sextile to Uranus. This is great for mental energy, I think, but also can leave you feeling a little ungrounded. And then before Mars can complete its square to Jupiter, Jupiter is going to leave Aries. It's not even going to complete it. But Mars is still in the square with Jupiter until Jupiter leaves Aries on May 16th. And then Mars leaves Cancer on May 20th. And perfects its square to Jupiter probably the next day, too. And as soon as Mars leaves Cancer on the 20th, it is in a perfect opposition to Pluto, which is a whole nother deal. And now we're way out of March. But I just wanted to walk through Mars's whole trek through Cancer. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm gonna try to start making more videos. I don't know if it's gonna work out. Maybe we'll do some like individual horoscopes for March with all these big, huge changes. It'd be a good one to start that. Up next, though, for videos I'm gonna make, I'm really excited about some stuff happening all the way in 2026. When Neptune and Saturn move into Aries. It's gonna be a crazy Aries party in 2026. Okay, so yeah, so that's next. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.